I'm so stoked. This is the video that I've been wanting to do more than any related to monoskis. So I'm Jim, and I've been monoskiing for about 12 years. I've skied since I was 7, so 40 plus years now, but almost exclusively monoskiing the last dozen years. It's better on my knees. It's just a blast to do. I love doing it. And I know there's very few people out there that do it, and I know there's some that are curious about it. And so I wanted to make a couple videos about monoskis, the skis themselves, and the binding process is to this video. And then maybe a bit of a review too, because I just got a new Faction Le Mono recently, and I just got the bindings put on, so really excited about that. Some things that I kind of wondered about as I was getting ready to have new bindings put on was what bindings to select, what the installation process looked like, because it's not the same as a regular set of skis, because there's no jig for an install. What the brake process looks like, because you have to deal with the inside brakes, and then kind of options for what to choose for bindings. And everybody has different opinions. In the end, I went with the suggestion from Faction, which is a look pivot binding. My understanding is the pivot portion on the heel allows for greater lateral elasticity and allows for better recovery. So you don't come out of the bindings quite as much. One of the other things that I've learned in talking to a few of the industry reps is why they suggest buying a high din binding for monoskis. And then, of course, any shop that will install your bindings are going to install them at whatever the appropriate din is for your height, age, weight, and skiing ability. But monoskiers tend to run them a bit higher, and that's because you wouldn't want to have one boot pop out and then have that swing weight on the other knee and risk a bad ACL tear or any kind of a knee injury. And so that's what I've learned about why you run a high din binding and run them higher than you normally would. I recently went to Evo in Portland, which is a great shop. They've got a number of locations throughout the West. They did a great job. I was fortunate enough to talk to the manager of the ski shop, and he agreed to take a few minutes and answer some of my questions. And so much of what you'll see tonight is actually him answering my questions. Right in the middle of his shop on a Saturday afternoon. They were very busy. It's a bit loud, so I apologize for the audio quality and the few interruptions of people trying to get through the small shop area. But a huge thanks to Shad and to Evo for taking that time right in the middle of their busy season to answer my questions and hopefully provide a bit of information for those of you out there that want to learn a bit about monoskiing and the binding process. We're here, we're at Evo, ready to get the mono, can't wait, super stoked. That was awesome.
Yeah,
What do you think?
it was awesome. They came out really well. Yeah, I'm pumped for it. I showed you the pictures there too, and it's kind of hard to tell in the pictures that I've given, but basically, you know, it was gridded out. Actually, you can kind of see even some of the chalk taped in there. It just wiped right off. But gridded out, so basically the center of your bindings is about 5.5 centimeters from either side of the center.
Okay.
So you can see, like in one of those pictures, a tape line down straight to center, and then another tape line down 5.5 on the left side, 5.5 on the right side. Obviously one right at the midsole. In one of the pictures, you can see that I used a jig and put some dummy bits through there, but that's just kind of a soft reference. As you use like a soft reference of where those holes are going to be, I then use calipers and just measure the hole distances and go from there. Just because you can use that jig as a soft reference, but even within, you know, that it's still within that jig, those drill bits. So
okay.
I end up just going with and you know, we free drill skis before where maybe they're too wide for a jig that we have or something like that.
Okay.
Where we have to use that method. But again, there's measuring it 10 times, drilling it once.
How did you decide how far apart the 5.5?
So that's basically so that you have enough room between your boots touching.
Yeah.
So the cup of your boot will touch just a tiny bit. It's not any portion of like the hard plastic or anything.
Yeah.
But you have to gauge that with the side and how much meat you've got on the left side, as well as your brake overhang.
Okay.
And balancing that with your boot touching. So 5.5 is generally about where it is. It might be a little bit larger on this one. I mean, I can't remember exactly, but that's usually where I start out. This is, you know, I'm not a Monoski pro, but it seems to be a little bit wider than most other ones. So,
okay. Speaking of that, how many Monoskis have you?
This is my third Monoski
okay.
that I'm mounting. So,
in how many years?
Last year I did one, the factory one from last year, and then previous to that was probably 4 years ago when I worked at a shop in Massachusetts. So.
Oh, cool. Then how do you cut the brake though?
With a Dremel. Yeah. I've seen people use just like bolt cutters before too, but what that leaves is this sharp point, so I use a Dremel and then file it down. And so, you know what, I think I might even have them in your boot. Oh. Just for fun. Yeah. They just get chopped off of there. Trying to think of anything else.
Can you talk to me about why you might mount the entire binding forward and back from the point that actually gets it?
Totally. So generally they're going to go off of like their factory recommended. It's going to be a balance between their forward contact point, their aft contact point, and the general balance of where the ski is supposed to perform, whether it's a powder ski or racing ski, all mountain ski. And with any one of those, you can mount them forward or back. As you go back, it's going to get a little bit of float. But maybe your tip is longer, so your swing weight is a little bit more. So it's going to be a little bit slower swinging. You mount it a little bit farther forward, a little more centered on the ski, less flow. So in powder or soft conditions, you run the risk of diving. But you also can pivot a little bit easier. So if you like skiing in the trees, really tight turns like slalom type stuff, you can go a little bit farther forward. So it's a little bit easier to control. You don't have to be, you know, you're not sitting so far back seat a lot of times. So,
cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. You know, obviously they come with a factory wax on them. We run them over the belt just for everything that we do. Mounting pivots, you have to be way more precise because you don't have the adjustable forward pressure track like you do on a Solomon, STH, or a Marker Griffin, or anything in the Marker Royal family where you have this track that the binding heel piece can float forward or backwards. You do have adjustable forward pressure on the pivots, but the way that it works is it's like these two screws that are right here that physically move the heel kind of a little bit forward and down versus backward and up.
Okay.
So pivots, you do have to be a little bit more precise than a traditional binding. So that added a little bit of difficulty in mounting it, just making sure that everything was definitely going to be precise.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and your din, I mean just basic like ski mounting stuff. You got your din set at a 6.5. That's purely based off your age, height, weight, and skier ability, as well as the boot sole length. So they're not tested out. As you can see, like we test for toes for elastic travel and recentering. We're going to say they failed because we're not able to actually test these ones with the release machine. Okay. But you can see forward pressure has been set properly. That's about the only thing that we're able to fully gauge and test. Otherwise, your boot is compatible with your binding, and you've got it here. My notes up. Come on through. And then we've got it mounted at that recommended, your plus 1.5 from factory recommended. Your din is set, not tested, which is normal. they're going to operate as they're supposed to. We just don't have the ability to test them out.
Because it's a mono?
Both because of its width and because it's a mono. So like we have our binding test machine, which is back there. It has the ability to test up to about a 132 millimeter waist ski. So obviously a mono is out of that. And then also testing with the heels side by side. Not possible. You can potentially do it with an old Vermont tester. But you're not going to. Well, I guess you could probably do it with one boot in there each side as long as you've got room to take that boot out.
Okay.
This is cool. I couldn't remember. I thought that did you buy this one from us?
No, I actually bought it from Faction.
From Faction, okay. I know that we had sold the ones on the website last year, and so I didn't know if we had a select amount of them this year or not.
I know they don't make very many, so I jumped on as soon as they were available from Faction and picked it up.
You're not part of like the whole crew of monoskiers that goes out to Jackson every year, are you?
The Monopalooza group?
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Not yet.
Okay,
I'm hoping
cool.
to join them.
That's awesome, man. They rock. They're so fun.
Yeah.
One of the pieces that I really appreciate about the work that Shad and Evo did was just the care they took on the brakes, and in having to cut the brakes off. As Shad mentioned, some shops will just take a set of bolt cutters and clip that side off, and it leaves it kind of a rough edge. Definitely could scratch or hurt someone if they caught it. And so I appreciate the fact that they took the time to Dremel it off and then to very carefully kind of smooth it out, so it's not a hazard to myself. So here we go, bindings mounted. I went with the Look 14s in black, and I think they look great with this particular board. I did weigh this board versus my old one. This one is a little over 3 pounds lighter. And then I went ahead and I chose to have the bindings mounted about 1.5 centimeters forward of the midpoint. And again, as Shad explained in the message, or in the video, that helps change the dynamic of the board, makes it a little less floaty in powder, but maybe a little more playful, which is what I really want, because there's not a lot of powder in our Cascade Mountains here in Pacific Northwest, at least not on days I seem to get up to. So really excited about it. So there you have it, a little bit about mounting bindings on monoskis. I hope it was helpful to you if you're interested in monoskiing and looking at it as an option. Can't wait to get this out, and hopefully that'll happen the next few days. With that, I'll say goodbye, and hopefully we'll see you on the slopes. Thanks.